Well, hello everybody. Let's start this broadcast.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees in listen-only mode. And I don't think Fred's with us tonight, but I am here. If you are there, let me know. And once again, this is a Wednesday, so it's Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. And while you get your questions together, couple things I wanted to just share with you, some of my thoughts on voiceover work in general. I think because I was a musician for a long time, I think of voice work very much like being a musician. The best musicians I know are both literate and they have facility with improvisation, just playing what they feel. And most of us think voiceover should be pretty easy. I mean, we all talk, but of course that's not the truth of the matter. You have to develop your instrument, your sensitivity to emotions and attitudes and so forth more when you're a voice actor or an actor of any kind, for that matter. And the way I look at it is the different genres are like playing different styles of music. And within those styles, there are subgenres. So if you're going to do narration, you might be doing narration for National Geographic, Science Channel, that kind of thing. But you might be doing narration for home remodeling shows. Same genre, but then subgenres of that genre. TV promos. Maybe you're doing comedy. Maybe you're doing drama. Well, there's a lot about them that are the same. They're, getting people to watch television shows. But there's some differences. And one of the things you have to do is use your ear. Whatever genre it is or genres that there are that you want to work in, listen to the people who are being successful in those genres. Now, once you've gotten that down, I want you to also understand that the only constant is change. And the way we did things 20 years ago is not the way we do things now. For that matter, the way we did things 5 years ago is not the way we do things now. So although, you got to keep your nose to the grindstone, every now and then you got to look up and check out the landscape and find out what are the trends, what are people listening to now, what is it that we are tired of, because trends go out of style just like music changes. Jazz players are jazz players are jazz players, but jazz of, 15, 20 years ago is different than jazz now. Rock and roll of 15, 20 years ago, different now. R&B, different now. Hip-hop, different now. There was a time hip-hop didn't exist. Well, it's just about grown up now. So, voiceover, train your instrument. Familiarize yourself with all the genres that you want to do. Some you're going to like, some you're not. You've heard me say often, I've recorded 3 audio books. I hope to never record a 4th. It's just not for me. People who love it, my buddy Scott Brick, he loves going into his studio and spending, 5-8 hours recording, telling that story. I like to work in shorter form. So anyway, hope that helped a few people. Let's go up here to Facebook. Hey, Drita, how are you? Howdy, how do you prefer to hydrate before, during, or after voice work? Room temperature water, hot tea? Well, I like hot tea. I like room temperature water. If it's a hot day, I might drink cold water. And I tend to hydrate before, during, and after. Sometimes you'll find that, a session's long enough or strenuous enough that you really need to hydrate a lot. And if I have a long session, I'm going to be drinking hot tea. And sometimes it's tea without the tea. Sometimes it's just lemon and honey in hot water. And that does wonderful things for you. All right, let's see. Did we have another question before that? Oh, wow. What was your first job? Okay. Well, any advice for anyone wanting to start in voiceover? Where to start? Start by listening. Start by watching. Go to YouTube. There are lots of different voiceover teachers that have free pages with lots of advice. I do. Bill DeWeese does. Nancy Wolfson does. I mean, the list goes on, and I hate to start mentioning names because I'm going to forget people, and they're going to be mad at me. But I think the idea of going to those websites, those YouTube channels, and watching those videos, those free videos that are giving you information, like this one will be after this, will often get you in the mindset of what people are talking about. Once you start spending money, you don't want to have your brain asking too many questions about, well, what are they talking about? I don't quite understand. If you've gone ahead and spent some time getting the free stuff first, you've given yourself a little bit of a head start. Practice reading out loud. And practice reading out loud with the idea of you want your reading out loud to sound like you're just talking. But it's a skill that you have to have. Practice trying to understand exactly what people are really saying as you're reading the written word. There's a whole thing. You're watching a movie and the actor comes on and he's been doing his thing and now he's got to read something and suddenly he's reading like this and those are the words that are on the page. And that actor is portraying how most people read. So get your reading level up, and then, like any musician, listen and imitate the kind of work and the kind of people that you'd like to imitate. Now, you got to make it yours. You got to make it yours, and we got enough Dave Fennoys. There's one. That's all we need. But there's a lot of things you could learn from listening to me, or back in the day, Don LaFontaine, or whoever it is that you like, Joe Cipriano, whoever it is. Learn from their phrasing, their timing, and their connectivity to the copy and the people that they're talking to. After that, get some training. And once you get your training, it's time for demos then, and a website, and a home studio, and it seems very, very involved, and it kind of is. Don't try to do it in a month. Take your time. Don't spend all your money on the most expensive equipment, and little by little, you'll get it together. All right, let's see. Let's go over here to our questions. Saw the SNL. This is U.S. Very well done. Thank you very much. Dave, are there any recordings available from VO Atlanta? If so, how might they be accessed and purchased? Not being in charge of VO Atlanta, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure they are. I don't think they did the X sessions, but some of the breakout sessions I know were recorded, and you might want to get in touch with Gerald Griffith, because he's the guy who would have them. But I think they are available. And if you paid to be there, I think, don't quote me, but I think it's part of the package. If you haven't paid, I'm sure people will be happy to take your money for you to get those. If for an audition you give several takes, should they be drastically different or somewhat similar? Good question. And this one never goes away. Sometimes I feel like I want to give 2 or 3 auditions because my ear's pretty sensitive and I hear nuances that maybe they don't hear, or maybe they hear them but they don't quite notice them. But I didn't quite like the way I hit that word. I like the way I hit that word here. Or this is just a little. Sometimes you'll drive yourself crazy with that. If you've got a really good take don't try to do something that's about the similar with just a few little changes and send them both. Send the one you like the best. If you're going to send them 2, send them something very different. Attention spans of people are very short now. And if you can imagine getting 50, 100, 300, 500 auditions of people saying the same thing. You start your day, oh yeah, oh wow. By the end of the day, somebody is saying that again. oftentimes they are looking for reasons not to listen. Make sure your slate is in the kind of energy that the rest of the commercial is in. You don't want to go, hey, Fennoy. And on a sunny day, and they're gonna nix you before they get to that on a sunny day. All right. So once again, that answer, I kind of dragged that out, didn't I? If you can get away with one take, get away with one take. If you've got something drastically different, say in a video game and you did it with an English accent, now you want to do it with a French accent, okay, I get that. All right, let's go up here. What was your first job? My first union job was the California Lottery. And I was living in San Francisco, and it was a nice spot. Hey, Tony, what's up, man? I haven't heard from you in a while. And hi, Dave, do you prefer to hydrate before doing... Oh, that was the first question, wasn't it? As we go up. And it's so nice to see so many people. Thank you for stopping by, Facebook friends. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the comments that you make after the fact. And it's a good thing. Okay. Hello. Thanks for doing this, by the way. No need to respond. Too late. I just did. Where's the best place to find quality voice actors online for independent projects? Wow. That's kind of a tough question. There are those who would say go to the pay-to-play sites, and that might be true. Another thing you might try, and if you're going to the pay-to-play sites, Voices 1, 2, 3, I think probably the best. But you might want to go to some of the Facebook groups for voice acting and see who they've got. If you're in London, you might want to talk to Rachel Naylor, see who's available at Vaughan, at the VoiceOver Network there. If you're in Los Angeles, there are a number of voiceover meetup groups that you can contact. And one of the things you'll get there is, one, there's some really talented people there. And two, they kind of know each other, so there'll maybe some camaraderie in putting that project together for you. All right. How do I break into narration? Well, first, become a good narrator. 2, get a good narration demo. 3, have a website where people can hear samples of your narration. Do your homework and find the people who are hiring for the kind of narration that you want to do, corporate narration, whatever it is, and start contacting those people and see where it goes. All right, let's see. I had a session with another talent in the booth, my direct client. Oh, whoa, this is a long one. Okay, bear with me. I had a session yesterday with another client in the booth, my direct client in the studio, plus his client in the studio on the phone. It was pretty straightforward e-learning about the opioid crisis. However, the end client had a lot of input on the reads, and I received a lot of conflicting direction from my client and the end client, as well as the audio engineer. In the end, I read it flat because that's what the client showed me she wanted by reading it in her own voice. How do I handle a situation like that? Well, that's a tough situation. I have been there, not so much on narration, but on commercials. And sometimes it has nothing to do with you. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But sometimes it has nothing to do with you or your performance. It has more to do with some kind of internal conflict with the people who are doing the job. This guy doesn't like that guy, or this gal doesn't like that gal or guy, or switch them up whichever the way you want. People, sometimes it's their egos involved. They want to get their input in. But let's just, for the sake of thinking the highest of everybody, that they have a real honest disagreement about how the read should go. Chances are, whoever the client is paying for it, that's who you should listen to. That said, I prefer working with a director who doesn't talk to me, or the director talks to me, and the director talks to the client. You don't need to have input from 3, 4, 5 different people coming at you from 3, 4, 5 different people. It's even easier if it's just one person, even if what they're saying is a little conflicting. That way the director can say, oh, okay, I kind of misled you. Talk to the client. The client would like A, B, C. Another thing that happens sometimes, especially in commercial world these days, is you've you've done the spot, but now they've got to find the guy on the golf. Speaking of hydrating, now they've got to find the guy on the golf course who couldn't be bothered to come to the session, but he has to have the final say. And of course, he's got to say something a little different, so you end up doing it again. But in a situation like that, you might want to just say, well, listen, I'm getting conflicting information. I want to give you what you want. Could you just tell the director how you want it and let that one person talk to me? Otherwise, it can get kind of confusing and you'll be in your head and your performance will suffer. Good question, though. Good question. What's up, Larry? Larry Hudson. Hey, Victor. Someone said if you're interested in narration, go listen to Peter Thomas. That's Roy, Uncle Roy, saying go listen to Peter Thomas, best narrator ever. Well, there's a bunch of good ones out there. I don't know if he's the best. He's a good one. How do you find the best artists in the various VO genres? You actually don't have to go looking for the best artists. They will present themselves. Turn on the television. They're there. Now, if you're looking for non-broadcast genres, that's a little different. And you might have to do a little more research there. But for audiobooks or audiobook awards, there are a number of people who keep showing up as the top audiobook narrators. Corporate narr, it's more wide open. And I think it has less to do with the wonderfulness of people's reads there than it does with being adequate and marketing well. Now, if you're talking about things that are broadcast, just listen, just turn on the television. You don't have to know their names. You just, I like that. And I hear that guy or that gal a lot. I'm going to, kind of take that in and listen. We also, of course, have the celebrities now doing a lot of commercials. And so you can listen to them. You could, Morgan Freeman, he's a request on almost everything. Study him. And there's a number of other celebrities who are very, very good at voiceover. Okay. Only the panel discussions and some breakouts. From a question to before, getting information, getting the videotapes, recordings from VO Atlanta. Uncle Roy just told me only the panel discussions and some breakouts were recorded, but they are available. All right, let's go here. Reading for the blind is also good. Absolutely, and thank you. A lot of people up their reading chops and ability to take, as I call it, take the words off the page by reading for the blind. And not only are you learning and upping your skills, but you're doing a good service for somebody. So that's an idea. So if you're on GoToWebinar, we need some more questions there. I'm going up to Facebook Live. Hey, hello. Oh, voiceover network for sure. A lot of hellos. We need more questions. What's up, my brother? Well, I'm doing this thing. That's what's up. Is it possible to book commercial gigs without an agent? Well, in the world we live in now, of course it is. There are people who, one, find their own work. They'll use Craigslist, they'll use Mandy.com, and or the pay-to-play sites, or even, I could imagine someone even cold calling companies and, hi, my name's Joe and I do voiceover. You need some guys to do some commercials for you? Let me give you a sample of what I can do. I think to some extent that can even work. That's the long, hard route, but it can be done. As a matter of fact, I think there are many more voice actors now without agents than with agents. And sadly, a large percentage of work, or a larger percentage than used to be, has moved into the realm of not union, not being found by an agent, but on the pay-to-play sites. So there's work there. There's work there. My question is simple. When do we meet up? It's been far too long. My old high school buddy, Chris Torch, who, did you go to Amherst, Chris? I think you went to Amherst, and then you moved to Sweden, and he's been there ever since. Must be something about those Swedish women. TJ, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Looking for questions. Heyday, what microphone are you using right now? Right now, this is a little, this is a little Apogee iPad mic. It's a very good mic for the money. They'll be in the range of $200 to $250. They have a new one out that I think is $250. It has a few more bells and whistles on it than this one. This is a little older model. But they're a very good microphone for the money. So I highly recommend them. In my studio, however, I have a collection of microphones. I end up using mostly my 416 or my 103, my TLM 103. However, I've got a new microphone on the way. I'm very excited. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but maybe I'll show you next week. It should be there by then, I hope. Anyway, all right. What else? Oh, what else we got here? Oh, and it's kind of a... What travel setup do you use? I heard you mention Apogee mic and the iPad. Yeah, that's exactly what I use. I'll take my iPad and I'll take my laptop with me as well, and I'll use one or the other, whichever one seems to be working better with the Wi-Fi. Often that's, the laptop. I also have a Sennheiser MK4 with the Apogee connection. It's a bigger diaphragm, bigger mic, and sometimes I'll take that. And of course, I use the Chaotica eyeball because it works so well, the Chaotica eyeball, to put your microphone in. JBL International, formerly Jewish Braille Institute, New York. Thank you. You know what? This is one of the wonderful things about doing this on Facebook, despite the fact that 50 million of us have been hacked and were used to elect the person occupying the White House now. Cody Bronson. Yeah, I know who you are. How are you patched in? I'm not sure of the question. I'm going to take a stab here. And you're wondering how I'm connected to the internet here. Well, this microphone is going into a USB in my computer, and then it goes through some other shenanigans in my studio. Actually, no, this one goes straight into the computer. It's not going through my system at all. Okay. Speaking of Morgan Freeman, I have a friend who is an uncanny sound-alike of Morgan Freeman. Would it be unethical for him to audition using that voice since it's attached to such an iconic celebrity? Good question. I have a number of friends who do very good Morgan Freemans, and everybody's always trying to get me to do a Morgan Freeman. I don't do one. One, imitating other people's not my thing. And two, you got a Morgan Freeman. We don't need another Morgan Freeman. That said, a number of people have boosted their careers, have gotten a head start on their careers because Morgan isn't going to do all the things that people might want him to do. But if they can get a good Morgan Freeman sound-alike, they will pay them money. And I know a number of voice actors who have, if not started their careers, have padded the income of their careers with their Morgan Freeman imitation. One buddy of mine actually does it, I'm going to say more legitimately. He is the Morgan Freeman voice they go to test commercials before Morgan comes in and does the job. So, yeah, if you can do a Morgan Freeman, if you can do a lot of other different celebrities, you can have a foot up. It's a great skill to have. Personally, it's not what I do. But I'm often in the studio doing some cartoons or games with somebody who does, and it's, God bless them. All right. Do you think it's a good idea as a non-union voice actor to negotiate with clients to use Taft-Hartley to become union? Well, what happens with the excuse me. What happens with Taft-Hartley, you're allowed to do one union job, and then you can do as much as you can in 30 days, and then you have to join the union after that. Most people have to start that way. That's typically what happens. You do a job. You were probably doing some other jobs, non-union. Now you've gotten better, gotten the attention of some people. You do a union job, and now, okay, union job, I got to join the union now. That's typically how it works. And I still suggest that non-union actors should aspire to be union actors. That is, unless maybe you plan to live in the world of audiobooks and e-learning and corporate NAIR. But I think that's going to limit you, and I think in time, those areas are going to come under the purview of the union. Well, hopefully. That's my hope. How does one lose the announcer's voice, radio, and find VO voice? How does one lose the announcer's voice? Because I tell you, I was in radio for a long... one, you have to stop listening to your voice. You have to find other places in it than that one beautiful, deep, rich area that you found, and having you worked to get your voice like that. And sometimes it takes a while. I know it did for me. It took a while to be able to back off of that. Soften your enunciation and stop listening to your voice. I'll tell you a way that might help, especially if you're a radio kind of person that when you're on the radio, you're speaking one way, and then when you're at home with your buddies or wife and family, if that voice changes, record yourself at home. Listen to what you sound like there and start imitating that instead of imitating this guy. Because what happened, and you don't necessarily want to lose that radio voice you've got. What you want to do is add some other things. Just be in a position where you don't have to use that. All right, let's see what else we got. Part 2. What presets, if any, do you use on your audio software? I don't use any on my audio software. If I'm going to do something software-wise, I do it after the fact. On my preamp, I have a channel strip. I have actually a couple of channel strips. I like a nice, clean sound with just a little bit, just ever so slight bit of compression. Now, I'm not a fan of EQing too much or adding too much bottom or lots of compression. I want a nice, clean, pure sound. So I don't do a lot to it. All right. At what level do you find a travel setup necessary, and how often do you use it? Well, if you're making your living doing voice work, it's necessary every time you travel. We actors, we're kind of an iggy bunch. We a little nervous, gosh, I've been working, but I'm going out of town. Gee, if I'm not available, they'll replace me. Will I ever work again? So, just for comfort, you take it, because you never know when, if not the big gig, the big audition, you want to be available for that. And there have been times when I've been away on vacation and won some jobs that I might not have had I not brought my rig with me, and was able to do some work that, existing clients needed now. So you might want to start taking it even though you don't feel like you need it just yet. If you're working fairly often and this is what you want to do, just get into the habit of taking it with you on trips. I guarantee sooner or later somebody's going to call you, you're going to need to use it, and you'll feel much better about having it than not. Oh man, I should have brought my rig with me. Oh, what was I thinking? That would have been a great gig. Now they're going to give it to somebody else. Dave Fennoy's going to get my gig. Okay. Wow, from Uruguay, Pablo, what's up, man? Well, we're getting some listeners and viewers from a ways back. And did George set up your studios? Yeah, he helped me set up my studios, and every now and then I have him come in and do a little tune-up. So yeah. And, since we all need studios, this is I'm glad you bring this up. It can be challenging to your brain how much stuff we have to become good at to have a voiceover career. You can't really have a career without having some kind of home studio. Most of us don't come out of a background of recording music or being in a radio. I was on the radio, but we had engineers. So it's good to know who to farm the work out to, and George Whittam is definitely one of those people. He has specialized in studios for years. Now, there's some other guys, but that's who I've been using. So if you're in the Los Angeles area or one of his trips to Colorado then he's a good guy to get to know. He can really help you set it up, and he's not the kind of guy that is so has to be so precise with, oh no, I only use this microphone and I only used this preamp, and no, he is experimenting with things, and he can offer you the mics in your price range, the channel strips in your price range, the preamps in your price range. So he's a good guy to know, and I highly recommend him. Virginia Watson stuck in that damn nor'easter in New York. Well, get out of there. Isn't the Chaotica eyeball for larger mics like the Rode NT1A? How do you get it to work in your small, with your smaller mic, the Apogee? I just stick the bad boy over there. I just stick it over, and it works. And yes, the Chaotica is designed with a bigger hole to kind of grab the microphone that you're using, but it works just fine with my Chaotica, even though it's loose. Once it's sitting there, you're not touching it. All right, what have we got here? We have any more down here? Oh. You've addressed this before, but how much editing of your auditions do you do before sending it in? I don't believe in auditions. I believe in performances. But yes, we're going to call it an audition because this is the performance that hopefully books you the job. So I want it to be perfect. If the copy is written right, so it's a 30, I want it to come in at 29.5. If it's a 60, I want it to come in at 59.5. And if there's other dialogue or effects or whatnot, I want to do it in such a way that it accounts for those. So the first thing I want to do is make sure it's in time. Well, that I like to read and that it's in time. If it's really overwritten and I would have to really make it ugly to say it so fast to get it in, then I won't worry about it being on time. I'll worry about the read sounding good. My tendency is to try to send 1, maybe 2 takes, if the second take is different enough. And I like to do a read that goes from T to B, that I start it and I finish it and it's right. And I don't like to Frankenstein together my auditions. Now, a lot of times when you're on the job, you read it all the way through and they Frankenstein it the way they want to. But I have a little bit of an issue with the cutting this sentence and this word and then this sentence and that together. If you could have done it in 1 take, great. But there are a lot of people out there now that they can't continue with that 60-second spot from beginning to end. And what they've done, I'm recording a little bit of this, now I'm taking a break, I'm recording this, now I'm taking a break, or they're putting it together for 5 or 6 spots. And in reality, if they get booked, they can't do the job the way they'll want it to be done. They won't be able to go from top to bottom, read it all the way through, and make it right. So if you can't do that, if you can't go from A to B, or A to Z with that commercial, I'm a little nervous about you Frankensteining it together, because it's like doing an accent that you can do, 5 or 6 lines in on a video game, and then you got 300 lines and you can't cover those other 300 lines. It'll make you look bad in the long run. All right. Are the microphones in professional studios substantially better than those we use in our home studios, or is there parity in performance? The microphones in the professional studios are better. Now, what has happened is the microphones that you're paying $200 to $400 for have gotten a lot better, but they're not up to the same quality as the Neumanns, the more expensive Blues, the Sennheisers or Manleys, and there's some AKGs. There's some very, very good microphones. Not all, if you're going to get into, say, a Manley, that's, about $3,000. Some of the Neumanns are up there, but not just because they're expensive doesn't mean it's going to be the right mic for you. I would go with what most people seem to be using in professional studios. The NT1, that Rode has become very accepted as a home studio mic. But most people, when they've been using them for a while and they're making some money, they want to move up to a 416 or a TLM 103 if they've got a big enough room and booth, a U87. And there's some other microphones that fall in there. The AKG C414. Those mics are marvelous. And there's some other ones, other brands that cost as much or more. But some of these mics that you don't find in the professional studios, that you find in home studios, are adequate. They're going to capture your sound, not color it too much. But where they fall down is how long they last, how much sound pressure they can take, and how accurate they are in recording sound. Okay. All right. Hey, Dave, out of curiosity, will you be teaching narration in the near future? Define near. At some point, yeah, we'll be doing a narration webinar. But not just yet. Oh, let's see. Do you have recommendations for a simple home studio setup, material setup, techniques, for a small budget? Absolutely. the two things you need in your room are one, that it's quiet, and two, that sound doesn't bounce. And the devil with the sound bounce are windows, hard walls, flat surfaces. You can get away with not covering a lot of things by, if you look back there on my shelf, it's, if you have enough pictures of yourself like I do, stuff I've collected over the years, pictures and whatnot, well, the sound can't just hit that and bounce back. It's going to hit that and bounce into something else, so it's not coming right back at me. So even though this isn't the room I record in, my sound here doesn't seem to be bouncing. My computer is right here. It's going on an angle. I have rock wool on the walls here and above. Right above me, there is foam. There's a big room over there, but there's speakers, and it's a long way to the hard surfaces over there. So even in here, this isn't too bad. Where I actually record is my whisper room. But you wanted to know about an inexpensive setup. You can set yourself up in a corner. So, and then hang curtains or treat the walls just in that curtain, say for 4 to 6 feet on either side. So you're talking into that curtain. A microphone's here. Your sound is hitting the walls there in that corner, and because that's treated, the sound dies there, and that's without having a studio at all. A lot of people like to use a closet. It's one of the best places. A closet with clothes in it, mind you, is one of the best places to record because the clothes soak up the sound. But you can use blankets. You can use towels. 5 or 6 towels together is one of the best ways. Can you hear my dog scratching at the door? 5 or 6 towels together is one of the best ways to absorb sound. It actually scientifically absorbs more sound than rock wool or foam. So equipment-wise, if you've got a computer, you've already got most of what you need. If it's a Mac, Twisted Wave, it's $70 for your computer. It's $10 for your iPhone or iPad. And you could get away with this Apogee mic that's about between $200 and $250. And that's a start. And I would suggest, if you're, dipping your toe in the voiceover world, don't go out and buy all the most expensive equipment that you can get thinking, well, this is what I need. It'll make me sound great. You may find after a while that it's not for you. Seemed like a really good idea when I started, but after taking some classes, I realized I suck. Now I got to sell all this equipment. And, people like me will be happy to buy it at an extreme discount. All right, I hope that answered your question, Craig. I'm not sure what you knew, Pamela, but you knew it. Hey, Dave, great to see you again. Oh, good to see you, Sean. Questions. Yeah, another person, the Rode NT1A, very popular mic. How do you get the right dynamics when what you think you hear is very different when you play back the recording? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Are you talking about the dynamics of your voice, the dynamics of how loud you recorded? Let's just talk about both. Who are you talking to? Where are you? What's your level of excitement? Are they far away so you have to shout at them? One of the things about voiceover, especially if we're doing narration, if we're talking to one person, we're trying to sell products, we're talking to one person, it's not necessarily a hard sell, so we don't have to be particularly loud or excited, then your regular speaking voice should work. And because the mics are so good, you can get a little bit closer and you can be even more quiet and get that kind of read. And if you got to get a little bit louder, back up a little bit. But you want to record everything. So if you're closer to the mic and with less volume, your level needs to be higher, or the level that you're taking in. If you're a little louder, the level needs to be less. And I would put that between -6 and -3 dB. That's the range you want to be in. If you're talking about the playback is too loud, maybe it's just your speakers. Maybe you've got your speakers turned up too loud. One of the things I notice sometimes, if I turn up the speakers, it sounds like I was shouting. I wasn't shouting. It's just now it's a soft voice loud. So, I know rock and roll, you're doing the mix. Turn that bad boy up. That's not necessarily what you want to do with voiceover. You want to hear it in a similar volume that you're saying it. Maybe a little bit more, but you don't want to blow it out. So, got to use your ears. I hope that answered that, Craig. If not, send me a note and we'll talk about it. AT4047, about 600. Excellent mic. It is. Closed closet is easiest. Yeah, and once again, I love that a question gets asked and somebody who's been doing this co-signs on. Yeah, closed closet works great. Shure SM7B. I'm not real familiar with that mic. Shure makes good microphones, but they're more known for their broadcast mics and their dynamic mics than their condenser mics. And let me just say this. If you're going to do voiceover, get a condenser mic. Condenser mic. Not a dynamic mic. And I'm sure there's some people out there that like condenser broadcast mics. But the broadcast mic is a little different animal. It's not as accurate. That's that mic that makes you have that big sound. You want a mic that just records you accurately. And I don't care if your voice is whiny or deep or whatever. You want a mic that records you accurately. And since the industry of voiceover is pretty much based on the condenser mic sound, just get with the program and get you a condenser mic. All right. Furniture pads from Harbor Freight cost about $6 and are excellent sound absorbing. Furniture. Oh, yes. Hanging furniture pads. They are. But furniture pads are not pretty. I would go for like theater curtains. You don't need that many of them, and they look better. They hang. They're nice. If you need to pull them away because you want the window to be open sometime or a piece of artwork behind it, you can close them down and, they drape and they suck up the sound and they look better than furniture pads. Okay. On your portable setup, are you using a Mac laptop, iPad, or iPad Pro? I've got an iPad Pro and a Mac laptop. And sometimes I use the laptop, sometimes I use the Pro. It just depends on my mood that day. Let's go down here. Do you listen to the playback of your recordings through headphones or studio monitors? Which do you think is best? I like monitors. I like studio monitors better than I like headphones. I typically do not wear headphones unless I have to hear cues, musical or direction from a client, then I'll have the headphones on. But I like the idea of just talking, just saying what I have to say. I'm hearing myself the way I always hear myself. There is a tendency, I think I've gotten away from it a little bit. There is a tendency, though, for people to put on headphones and then start listening to their voices. And, I sound really wonderful. Let me turn that up. That's so nice, deep and bassy and rich. And then you start concentrating on, I sound good, as opposed to I'm connecting here and here with whoever it is I'm supposed to be talking to. And that is the most important thing, is to connect, here and here. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The more beautiful your voice, the faster bad acting shows up. Stop listening to your voice. All right, do we have another one here? No. And we're breaking down 49. Let's see. It did, Craig. I don't know what you're answering and forgotten. You have a solid voice. Do you do us a solid and give us an example of your what? I thought I was giving you examples of my voice right now. Okay, Drew Campbell, I use the NT1, fits my voice. I think people often put more stock in, oh, gee, this microphone, why are you doing that to me? There we go. This microphone makes me sound better than that microphone, and it can happen. But I think oftentimes people are little too dependent on what they think the microphone is going to do for them. If it's just a little bit more trebly or higher mid-range here, a little less mid-range there, most people don't really hear that. We've got some engineers out there that hear everything. I could say they hear around the corner. They can tell that, oh, no, that's a WAV file and that's an MP3. Most people can't. And we're a society now where we've become very casual. We've gotten used to people, shooting video in their houses on all kinds of cameras and cell phones and whatnot. And we are not as discerning about that. We're much more accepting of wherever that signal comes from. Similarly with sound, although sound actually, you can have bad video, but if the sound is good, it can be okay, but not vice versa. Most people, I think they think that if I get this much better microphone, it's going to make me much better. Not necessarily. I like nice microphones because I can afford them. But before I could, I bought just what I could afford. The first microphone I have is one that's in there. The one I'm using right now is the first really good microphone I bought, a 416. And the next one I got was a TLM 103. Now, I've added a bunch of microphones since then, but those are still the two I use most until my new baby comes. And then we'll see. So don't get too hung up on, gee, well, I like this microphone as that one. There are some people who have unique voices that certain mics aren't going to work for them. That's not most people, though. Okay. Hello. Dan, if you're working from home to deliver tracks for a final project, you'll want to get a pretty common studio mic like the Neumann TLM 103. It makes it easier for the mixer to match it on the other end. That's Dan, buddy of mine. He's an engineer in town. He's been doing it a long time. He's also a musician. And he is speaking the truth. Once again, love that you're listening and you're sharing some information. That is one of the reasons to have a studio mic, one that is used in professional studios, because it will be easier for them to match sound to what they've got in the studio. Can you do a trailer voice? Yeah, I do trailers, not nearly as many as I'd like. But I've done quite a few trailers, have some recent, but I'll give you the trailer read is small, and you can be right here. On a cold day, Dave Fennoy was in his studio talking to people on Facebook. Okay, so that's your little trailer read. Everett, Oliver, hi Dave, just wanted to say hello and hope you're doing well. My ear is ringing and it won't stop. What do I need to do? Answer your head. Tinnitus, I think that's what they call that. There are a number of things that you can do, but you might want to see a doc for tinnitus. Everything you need for travel. Okay, that gave me a YouTube thing. I've tried yearning, but it's not helping. Oh, God. Yes, condenser mics. Thank you, Roy. M-Audio USB condenser, I have one, but don't know the difference in quality of the brands yet. The M-Audio USB mic is a fairly new one, and I don't know how good it is. M-Audio typically makes decent equipment, so I'm going to assume that it's okay. Is the 416 okay for female voices? I have heard a number of women who say they do not like the 416 for female voices. So, I not having ever been a woman, I don't know. My tendency is to believe the 416 can work for everybody. But I've heard a number of women tell me that it just doesn't work on their voices. So, oh, what happened here? Did I get unconnected? Oh no! Oh no! Oh me! See how that stuff just gets in the way sometimes. Okay. Okay, there we go. We're about 6:55. We're getting close to wrapping this thing up. Just a couple more questions. If you have them on Facebook, let me scroll down, see if I missed anybody. Oh, Bev Standing, just bought a 416 and loves it. Well, there you go. My tendency is to believe that decent microphones are going to work decently for any kind of voice. The 416, that's a long shotgun mic. What it was used for was movies and television. And I guarantee there are women in movies and television. And you'd have the boom guy, and he's holding it up. And because it's a shotgun, it's very directional. Yeah, and you can work it from, a number of feet away or inches. It's a very versatile mic. And it wasn't until, I guess, the 70s, maybe 80s, that they started using that microphone for voiceover. And we can blame Ernie Anderson and ABC television for that. All right. Well, you know what? I think that's going to wrap it up for this Wednesday's Ask Dave Fennoy Anything. I'm going to bounce it to disk and have it up on YouTube by tomorrow. I try to get it up tonight, but I'm not going to promise. Once again, YouTube fans, thank you. YouTube people, thank you so much for your questions and your input. It's a big help to have some information and be co-signed. And I enjoy doing this, and I hope I'm helping somebody. And I will see you next Wednesday. Boop. Finish. And we'll go to meeting. Quit go to meeting. Bye-bye. Oh, Clementine, you a pain in the butt. You see I'm busy? I knew you were going to do that.
It is a step in the now. I'd like to the backlash opened up by talking about this admiration and first lady. A lot of the show and they Fox News about being your activist. A lot of personal attacks, and then I know singled out. How have you guys been coping? I mean, it's really hard,
not really a question. That was kind of funny. Let's move on. Or maybe somebody else will. It's not. We don't really. Most of us take it personally because, like, at the end of the day, it's a stupid comment. We don't need to dignify it with a response. And we do want to dignify it with, and that's the best way to deal with it.